All right, real quick, I'm going to review the shows Fallout and the Trades. Both are new series on streaming platforms. Fallout obviously covers the Bethesda game, Fallout 3 for the most part. No spoilers, nothing too crazy. I will spoil a little bit. And the Trades is a comedy series based on working in a refinery and the various tradespeople. I'm going to talk about both these shows, give you my real and honest thoughts. Now, I'm coming at this as someone who loves watching movies, watching series. I was looking forward to both of these shows at pretty much the same level. I was expecting Fallout for it to do for it to fall short where a lot of shows typically do, where they're banking on some kind of nostalgia or some name to carry it, and they just do weird other stuff that has nothing to do with it. Some They make it a totally different story, or they try to contain some really bland story within the extended universe of a well-known franchise, and it's just a total disaster. Or they brutalized well-established characters. um, and now the Trades is a lot simpler of a show to make because it's just a comedy, and you see before you three very important characters in the Trades. You have Tom Green there sitting at his desk. He's the plant manager of this refinery. You have Ricky, the guy who plays Ricky in Trailer Park Boys, plays the main character in this series. He's kind of like a foreman. He's basically the like guy in charge of the tradespeople at this plant, which is kind of like a middle management position. He basically How it would actually work in an actual refinery would be there would be like many people between Tom Green's plant manager character and Ricky's site representative. Basically, what Ricky would do would be, if this were real, he would just get orders from the plant manager for the most part. It would just be like, all right, we need these tradespeople, go and get them. If there's some kind of issue, then Ricky would go to Tom Green, but none of that really happens. The show, The Trades. It tries to be based in reality, but it's completely not reality. Now I can forgive that, right? Because the main writer, he knows people who works in these plants and in the trades, but he isn't one. I can forgive not understanding this complex workplace because you kind of have to experience it firsthand to really pick up the vibe. So a lot of the little nitpicky kind of issues that I have with knowing firsthand, having like working in that industry, I can look past it. I can forgive it. I can move on. As long as the show's funny, right? And you got Tom Green there, you got Ricky. It should be funny. And working in industry, working in trades, you're going to come across a lot of people quoting that man right there, Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. Iconic. I swear, not a week goes by in any refinery where people aren't quoting Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. I guarantee you. Now, Fallout, oh my god, Fallout is incredible. They do everything right. They follow the imagery of the games where it's like dingy and dark contrasted with everything being like super bright and colorful, and it's freaking awesome. And the ghoul is played by Walton Goggins, and everyone loves this ghoul. It's going to be impossible for you not to love this character, but I particularly love his flashbacks of him being a human. Holy crap, does Walton Goggins do an incredible job here. Like, this is actually goes beyond just being an incredible video game turned into a series, but I think this is some of Walton Goggins' very best work. This is a really cool, great show, phenomenal. They get the vibe exactly right. All the little details are there, the Easter eggs. A lot of shows, for some reason, they don't do what Fallout does. Like, a lot of times I'll watch something and I'm like, why don't they just make it good? Why don't they just make it accurate to the franchise? Like, to me, a lot of the stuff should be paint by numbers. The show should mostly make itself. Just follow the aesthetic. It basically writes itself. You already have a rich universe with cool characters, cool locations, tons going on, all these different factions. I love in this show Fallout where you have these different groups of people and none of them are super obviously bad or super obviously good. It's up to like the viewer to decide, just like you would decide in the video game which faction you're going to help. Watching the series, it's the same thing. Who are really the good guys? Who do you want to win? And the character Max, I think I like the character Max as much as I like the Ghoul, because the character Max, he's just kind of scummy at first, and he still does scummy things throughout, but he really kind of has this like slight redemption, and it really works for me because I still don't know how I feel at the end of one season of this show about Max. You know, I like him more than I did at the beginning, obviously, but he's not like the good guy. Like when you'll when you watch it, he'll be eating popcorn and you're like, "What is this guy doing? Why are you eating this popcorn? Get your head on straight." And it takes him a while. He's not just like some super hero, you know? And he's the character where you could be lazy and just make him a superhero and just make him right about everything. And the main woman, you could make her awesome and great at everything, but why would you do that? Fallout's about survival. And like, don't make your main characters like super great at everything, right? Even the Ghoul, he's incredibly experienced and wise, but he ain't perfect and he isn't as strong as he seems. I'm certain that this show will definitely get a second season, and I think the Ghoul will actually need a lot more help in the second season. Now, the show The Trades. My goodness. I feel like in a lot of ways this is also paint by numbers, but they decide to, I don't know, paint with just water. Not even paint. Like, my God. From the very first scene, and keep in mind, I work in this industry. I want to love this show. I love the Trailer Park Boys. I've seen most of it. It gets weird and animated near the end of Trailer Park Boys. I haven't watched all of that. No one has. But, oh my God. Trailer Park Boys. Phenomenal Canadian show. The Trades, complete opposite. Now, The Trades is produced by the people who produce Trailer Park Boys, but my goodness, is this wildly different. Now, the main issues. I feel so bad for Ricky because he does a really good job here. Like, he's believable. He's always going to be a Ricky-esque character, right? Because it's impossible to not see him as who he is. He's Ricky. But he does a really good job, and he could work so well in a well-written, well-made show. That is not what this show is. The directing's bad. The writing's atrocious. The editing. What is this editing? Where you're going quick cut, quick cut, quick cut. No joke ever has time to like land or simmer or anything or like build up to. And it's not like a rapid barrage. It's like a slow barrage of jokes that aren't given enough time to hit on an individual basis. And it's so bizarre. And a few things stand out to me, right? So there's an episode where they all have to pee. Like the plant suddenly has... Everyone is getting randomly pee tested. So a lot of the people, almost basically all of the characters, need to get clean pee. Which is crazy, unrealistic scenario. You're not going to find a workplace where literally everyone is on drugs. But, you know, there are people who are, and they would need to get some clean pee somehow. So it's kind of... There's all these relatable things, these things I can connect to. But just so loosely and so vaguely, and they get it so wrong. Again, I can kind of forgive that, but I'll get to it later exactly what the issue is, and not much later. I'm not going to make this video super long, but think about that P scene. Anybody who's watched that P episode, it is a P episode. None of the jokes land. It's not interesting in the slightest. For some reason, the boss, the plant manager, who isn't Tom Green at that point, she just stakes her entire career to help everybody basically break the law and get clean pee for their pee tests. To where she's like literally peeing herself. She's peeing in like a cup or something, or like a pitcher, and dumping it in this giant jug of pee in an office that's got like a bunch of cubicles. Why would this new plant manager do that? She barely knows any of these people. And she's literally peeing so they have clean pee. What? Like, I can forgive a little bit of like weirdness and zaniness, but what is this character? This character would be really cool if she remained a fish out of water, somebody who's reacting to the raw like insanity of what's happening around her. But they don't like build up anything. You don't get to know any of these characters really. Like, you get to know Ricky a tiny bit, but literally no one else. And I'll talk about the worst part. Now, the worst part is these other characters. Now, I love Tom Green. I absolutely adore Tom Green. Outrageous man, very funny. But as you can imagine, he's a Tom Green character, and he appears right at the start of the show, which immediately takes you out of it and lets you know this show is crap. How does that happen? It's because he's a Tom Green character. He doesn't fit in this series at all. There's no plant in existence that would have a Tom Green character, and in this show he's doing a bunch of drugs, like, at his desk, and he's being Tom Green, a plant manager of a refinery. Like, the entire local economy relies on this refinery, this freaking Conch Industries or whatever. It's Shell, it's Conch. The company is supposed to be Shell. One of the largest companies on the planet. Like a company that has like obviously has a corporate structure. You're talking about like a multi-billion-dollar company. Literally one of the largest ones on the planet. And they just let somebody like a Tom Green character run one of their plants. No. Absolutely not. That would never happen. No. It's just awful. It just pulls you so far out of the show. And I love Tom Green, but why'd you make him the plant manager? Why? It doesn't work. It could never work. Right? A show that should be grounded in about the trades, you don't need to add zaniness. It's so weird because they have an episode about a golf tournament. And wacky things happen. But I've literally gone to golf tournaments myself. And they work golf tournaments, and they've been far wilder than that. I've got way funnier stories myself than what happened in this show. I don't get it. I don't get it. And like, it's so weird because the setting lends itself to so much comedy. Now, how this show should work, it should be like The Office in certain ways. Not in the way that it's shot, although it would be an insane improvement if this was shot anywhere close to as good as The Office. But what I mean by that is workplaces have certain dynamics that lend themselves to being hilarious. That's why The Office is one of the biggest comedies ever, is because it's super relatable. Because there's office politics. Not everybody gets along. There's all sorts of conflict. Not in the trades. Everyone gets along perfectly. There's no cliques. Usually, the trades, like, you mostly just stick with someone in your exact same trade most of the time. Because you're working with them directly, all day. That's what your work is. You and somebody else in your trade work together on something all day. And maybe you have to work together with another trade, but very briefly. So that they have this weird like amalgamation, like this, like they don't establish it. It's like this weird hippie commune is this workplace where everyone gets along, all the trades just like cluster together in a way that doesn't actually happen. And I don't know why you have to make this like weird and not like just identical to how it actually is. That would be so much better. Where like, yeah, people aren't gonna just get along. There's so much comedy within that, right? And they just entirely miss out on all of that. And the problem that I have with Tom Green is the exact same problem I have with this stupid raccoon in the lawn chair. So Ricky and his sister have a raccoon that like sits in a lawn chair and they talk to at their house. What? They don't explain it. I'm kind of glad that they don't. It doesn't work regardless. Like Tom Green and this raccoon don't fit at all, which would be like that can work. Have Tom Green just be a guy who works at the plant. The raccoon, no, that could never work. Because is this show supposed to be reality or is it goofy, over the top Tom Green? Like, either it's the Tom Green carrying this show and it's in a Tom Green like universe where everything's wacky and crazy, or it's like reality. You kind of can't really have both. Like you need something like Stealing Harvard, where Tom Green's like a minor character. He's somebody who's exists because of another character, right? They just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't work. I mean, I don't know why you would intentionally confuse the audience as to whether or not this exists in reality. This world is one of reality, or is it one of just pure raw goofiness where these characters aren't really like humans, they don't act like humans, this workplace is nothing like any workplace in existence. You know, like I don't know why they wouldn't just go with like this is the office, but it's in a refinery and the rules don't apply, right? Like in the office, Michael Scott is basically a fish out of water because he's wildly inappropriate. He's older than a lot of the people. He says jokes that are offensive. He doesn't like he's completely inappropriate and he's cringy and he's sad, right? He is out of water because most of the other people are like relatively normal, and then their quirks over time kind of like take form and you get to see them like an actual workplace. If you just did that but in a refinery, it's going to lend itself to so much more comedy because in the refinery you have so much more. You have like the equivalent, you actually probably have even more downtime than the characters in the office, but you have this insane setting where you're in this big location where there's vehicles going around. You got trucks, you got forklifts, trains, you know, you've got different levels of stuff. You have crazy stuff going on. You got alarms, you got all kinds of piping and vessels and emergencies and these people and these people and these people. It lends itself to so much comedy. Like literally me just telling stories with a coworker, I can tell stories a million times funnier. And on a daily basis, literally today, we were telling stories that are way funnier than anything that happens in this show. And it's stuff that actually happened. Like, just, I don't get it. I don't get how they did such a bad job here. And it's mostly the writing. But also, I like to give credit where credit's due. And I like to say, hey, you know, the actor's not to blame. But at a certain point, when in your entire series, like one sight gag works and it's the only funny thing in your entire season of a show, you gotta wonder, these people, right? I mean, I love them and respect them, Tom Green and Ricky, but like, you guys are funny. Like, how come you aren't being like, all right, guys, let's do this a little different. Let's like do something funny here. Because Tom Green has that ability for sure, where he's just coming up with funny stuff off the top of his head. But you have to have him as a character that it can exist in the world and it make any kind of sense and not just pull you right out of the show and just confuse you and irritate you. You can do that. Let Tom Green be a Tom Green character. Don't like hammer in a square Tom Green shaped peg into the triangle hole, you know, and that's what they do, and it's immediate. It's like the first thing that happens in the show. The first scene has Tom Green. Ugh, it's horrible, and it's sad because there's so much like creative ideas out there, and this show itself it could be so much more, and I can't. Anytime watching each and every episode, I just thought, wow, like I could write something better in minutes. And it's just garbage. Like I'm sorry, it's garbage. I can't recommend that anyone watch it. Whereas Fallout, literally everyone who isn't like a young child who will be afraid of people being shot and killed and like ghouls and mutants and things, watch it. Basically anybody watch Fallout. And basically nobody watch the trades. If you're like work in the trades, you'll find some stuff relatable. You'll find maybe a little bit of entertainment value, but ugh. If you stop and think about it and notice the technicality of the show and the way that it's shot and edited, you're gonna be like, ugh, what the hell is this? Why does anyone like this? But yeah, that's my review. Fallout and the trades.